Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. I got a chance to take a look at the trailer for Marvel Studios' She-Hulk series on Disney+. And after looking at this trailer, I had to shake my head because it's clear to me that Marvel Studios is going in a bad direction. Now, your She-Hulk, like many other more recent Marvel Studios projects, completely starts to deviate from the source material. And when you have a studio starting to deviate from the source material as related to superhero concepts, that's when that whole studio is in trouble. And your Marvel Studios under Kevin Feige is making the exact same mistake that the Salkins made with Superman 3 and what Warner Brothers did with Joel Schumacher's vision for the Batman franchise once he took over. And in both of those cases, your Warner Brothers made the mistake of believing that they knew better than the source material, and once they started to think that they knew better, they started to make deviations that wound up making the characters look bad and also wound up making a terrible film that nobody wanted to watch. And this is what's happening right now with Marvel Studios' She-Hulk, where they have decided to replace the fun, vivacious superheroine that was defined by Stan Lee back in the early 80s and then redefined by John Byrne in the late 80s. And now they're deciding they're going to try to change this character into someone who fits the frames for third wave feminism and the identity politics of third wave feminism. And that was shown to us in the trailer for Marvel Studios' She-Hulk, where we see your Jennifer Walters not celebrating what makes her great as a woman like she did in the Marvel comics. No, what they show us is that she's trying to replace a man, the Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner, all throughout the trailer. And all throughout the trailer, we get beat over the head with the idea that Jennifer Walters is better than Bruce Banner and that she is more powerful than Bruce Banner. And that's something I have, as a longtime comic fan, I have to take umbrage with, because when you think of the Incredible Hulk and you know him from the comics, everybody knows that the Hulk is the strongest one there is. And what's really sad is that throughout the MCU, they have basically emasculated the Incredible Hulk, starting with Avengers Infinity War, and we never got to see the Hulk define himself as the strongest one there is in Avengers Endgame. Instead of us getting a moment where we saw the Hulk basically punch Thanos all the way up into his ship, which is what I wanted to see after he said Hulk is the strongest one there is, what we got was the Hulk not getting his moment because they wanted to give him the Infinity Gauntlet to further emasculate him and strip him of his power so that they could have the girl power moment where all the heroines take on Thanos, and then the Scarlet Witch is shown to be the most powerful person in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that basically turned the Marvel Cinematic Universe into a gynocentric universe, which was all about trying to praise women at the expense of all of the male characters. And what we see with She-Hulk is a continuation of the emasculation of Bruce Banner as they further neuter him and make him look like a beta male. Meanwhile, the She-Hulk is presented as a superior female, and that again is something that should offend most Marvel comic fans, because the She-Hulk is not stronger than the Incredible Hulk, and it's not possible because men are 8 times stronger in their upper body, and men are naturally stronger than women. So basically what your Kevin Feige is doing is basically emasculating men to elevate the She-Hulk and that's not the case ever as related to Marvel Comics. No, when it came down to the Hulk was the strongest character in the Marvel Universe, and instead of us getting a series that shows us that the Hulk is strong in his way and the She-Hulk is strong in her way, what we get is a further degradation of the Hulk and a degradation of men by proxy, because basically what they're doing is saying that your man in America is less than a woman, and you don't really need to do that in order to tell a compelling story. For example, in the SJS Direct universe, Isis and Eastine are physically stronger than John Haynes, but they also have other character traits that make them strong as well. So I don't really focus on the physical strength of Isis and Eastine to compare them to John Haynes. No, what I do is I show how your Isis and Eastine have other traits that make them strong, like having strength of character and having strong integrity. These are traits that I believe that are things that people need to see as related to being a strong woman, and we don't really need to see a woman trying to be as physically strong as a man. This is one of the big problems that many of your third wave feminists and your far leftists have. They want men and women to be equal. However, men and women are not equal, and they have different traits that complement each other. And this is something that is downplayed in most of your what they call SJW comics and many of your forms of social justice media. They don't go out here and downplay the idea that men and women have different traits and that these different traits complement each other. However, in the SJS Direct universe, I always made a point to show how men and women's strengths and weaknesses complement each other, and this is something that I really wish that they had done with the She-Hulk show, showing that your Jennifer Walters had other character traits that were complement Bruce Banner's physical traits, and that she had other traits that played off of Bruce Banner in the show. But instead of showing us this, they want to try to show that the woman is superior. And when you start to show that the woman is superior, that's something that I believe alienates a lot of viewers, especially in the core demographic of men, because most men don't want to see a woman who is physically stronger than they are and then talking about how she's superior, because that makes that man feel inferior as he's watching that show. So when a guy is watching a show, even if the woman is attractive and she's talking about being more masculine than he is, that's a turnoff for that man, and he's not going to want to watch a show where there's a female sitting there talking about how she's stronger than he is, how he's better than he is, and how superior she is to him. He's not going to want to watch that show, because he's going to feel emasculated watching a show where this woman is sitting here talking about how much better she is than a man. And that's what we saw in the trailer for She-Hulk, and I believe they've practically alienated a good chunk of the male base that would have watched the show, because when you're doing a show or a book about a heroine, one of the things you want to do is show how that woman is attractive to the guys, because it's the guys who go out here and buy these books or watch these TV shows because they want to see an attractive woman who is powerful, but they want to see somebody who has character traits that they find to be attractive. And when it comes down to the She-Hulk, what they showed in the trailer wasn't attractive to guys, because again, what guy wants to go out here and be with a woman who is trying to replace him? That's what most people didn't understand at Marvel Studios about the trailer they were producing. What guy is going to want to watch a show about a woman who is basically saying that she can replace you, instead of somebody who can go out here and compliment you? Now, as a guy who writes heroines who have, again, great power, like Isis and Eastine, who are basically goddesses, They are out here, yes, they have, again, physical power, but what makes them attractive to readers is the fact that they complement characters like John Haynes by showing that they have other character traits that complement a man, such as having strength of character, such as having strong integrity, and such as being a helpmeet to a man like John Haynes, and showing that they can go out here and work with a man and be somebody that the reader can sit here and identify as having traits that make them attractive as a partner to a man. This is what makes a character appealing, and it seems like your Kevin Feige has not really gone out here and studied great shows which feature strong heroines like I did, like such as Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Xena Warrior Princess. Yes, those shows featured strong heroines. However, those heroines oftentimes were a great complement to the men in their lives. Like Buffy was a great complement to Giles and Angel, and Xena oftentimes complemented many of the men that she worked with, like Hercules and Ares and the Autolycus, the Prince of Thieves. They were playing off each other, and I don't really see that with the She-Hulk trailer. All I see is another one of these far left social justice type shows, which is going to tell us how strong the She-Hulk is, how powerful she is, and how she's just like a man. But nobody wants to see a woman who is just like a man. If a woman wants to see a man, she'll go see a man. And if a man wants to see a man, he'll go see a man as well. He does not want to deal with a pseudo-feminist character who is just, again, presented so masculine that she's unattractive. And that's the case here with the She-Hulk character on the She-Hulk show. And this, again, flies in the face of everything that your Stan Lee created her to be and what your John Byrne redefined in his classic 80s comic series. In John Byrne's classic 80s comic series, he oftentimes showed how Jennifer Walters loved her femininity and saw the She-Hulk as an exaggeration of a celebration of femininity. And this is what she was basically like a supermodel living a glamorous life in the superhero world. And instead of that, we're getting some, as I see it from the trailers, a whole bunch of feminist and far left narratives that basically turn the character into an attempt to replace the Hulk instead of complementing the Hulk by showing a great contrast between Bruce Banner, who was a smart Hulk at the time in the late 80s, and Jennifer Walters' approach to being the Hulk. I mean, if you look at the Hulk and the She-Hulk from the late 80s to the early 90s, the Hulk was a definition of an exaggeration of masculinity, and the She-Hulk was a definition of exaggeration of femininity, and both of them complemented each other, and that's something I was disappointed not to see presented in Marvel Studios' adaptation of the She-Hulk, which has proven to be, again, another, as I see it, disaster for Marvel Studios, with Kamala Khan's Ms. Marvel being the first big disaster. This show looks like it doesn't really get the character, and it doesn't really get what's great about the character, and it really doesn't get a good sense of what makes the character fun. They don't really, as I see it, understand the character from what I saw in the trailer, and what I saw in the trailer really just didn't present the spirit of who the She-Hulk was. And from what I've heard, they've completely changed her origin. And again, changing the character's origin, that's a dangerous sign, because when you change a character's origin, when you change a character's story, you're headed down the road that practically led to the decline of the Superman and franchise in the late 80s and the decline of the Batman franchise in the late 90s. It's these attempts to deviate from the source material and think you can do better than the original creators. That's what tanked the entire superhero movie genre with Superman in the 80s and tanked it with Batman in the 90s. And sadly, in the 2020s, it's looking like Marvel Studios is heading down the same road as the Salkins and Joel Schumacher. And sadly, nobody in Hollywood has learned the lessons as related to producing a consistent cinematic superhero product. And that is the first rule of it, is always trust the source material, always stay true to the source material, because that's how you keep your fans happy, because when you deviate from the source material, you're headed down a road to alienating all of those fans, and those fans stop watching your product because it's not quality. And that's what I saw with the She-Hulk trailer, a show that is not of quality and really does not really give us a good quality heroine story, which is what we got with Buffy and Xena. And if we had that quality of writing, I believe Marvel Studios would finally have a franchise featuring a heroine, because what makes a heroine strong is different than what makes a man strong. Yes, with heroes, we want to see the physical power, but with women and heroines, we want to see strength of character. We want to see internal character traits, and this is something that I have had great success with when I go out here and I write heroines like an Isis, an Eastine, a Colleen Anderson, or a Matilda Crowley. When I write heroines, what people love about the heroines I write is seeing internal character traits, and you can put this on screen showing us great strength of character with a heroine. And the sad part is Marvel Studios doesn't understand that if you show us great internal traits as related to heroines, you would have the success of a Buffy or a Xena, because what they're doing right now with characters like Captain Marvel, like Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and She-Hulk, this formula is not going to get them much success as related to developing heroines. No, with heroines, you have to go out here and present a solid and consistent story, and you have to show us how this character is going to stand in the face of adversity. And yes, you can do this with lots of action. Xena Warrior Princess showed us you could do this, Buffy showed us you could do this, and even the Wonder Woman movie showed us you could do this. But Marvel Studios is still trying to force this whole social justice type narrative of trying to present us a masculine woman, but masculine women are a turnoff to men. And with men being your core customer base for this character, you're not going to get much success with this character, because a man doesn't want to watch a woman who is out to replace him in God's natural order. Now, my comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, just has a few days left on Kickstarter, and if you want to pick up that comic, you may do so by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to pick up my books featuring heroines like the Isis series, the Eastine series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find all of those books in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com and other online booksellers. And if you want to see me make more videos talking about superheroes and superheroines, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Eastine Horror of a Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed all-new Eastine series adventure. Get Eastine Horror of a Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today.